Welcome back, everyone. My name is Mike, and this is Lesson 2 of the VS2013 C# Programming for Beginner tutorial series. In our previous lesson, we downloaded and installed Visual Studio 2013, so hopefully y'all have that successfully installed and are ready to use it. Now I have a shortcut already set up here on my desktop to launch Visual Studio 2013. And the first thing that comes up is the start page. We won't actually need to use anything on there. That's just information from Microsoft about Visual Studio. So I'll go ahead and close that. And to get our first project started, our console application, we're going to click File, click New Project. Make sure we're on the Visual C# language. This version I have here, I installed the full Studio Express, so it includes both the Visual Basic programming languages and Visual C++. So make sure you're on Visual C#, and we will click a console application. In the name of the application down at the bottom, we're going to give this a name of console app, and the solution name, which will contain our project name and any other additional projects if we had them, we'll name it after the series, VS2013. And this is lesson so I get VS2013 C#, and it's lesson 2. So that's our solution name. We got our console app as our application name. We'll make sure the create directory for solution is checked. That will create a separate folder for the solution and the project. Keep it separate from each additional one that we do in future tutorial videos. So we'll click OK. That will go ahead and generate necessary files for the project. It will also create a standard program.cs file for this console application, which is the primary file that's used to write code for a console application. Now we're not going to get into too much of this right now with the using statements, the namespace, and the class, but what we're interested in is this little function right here that says static void main, and in parentheses it has a string with some brackets and the word args, which is our variable name. In between, underneath that, we have these two curly braces. So we're going to hit enter after the first one to open up some space, and any code that we want to write for a console application would go into this function. This main function is a special function that is searched for. It's called the entry point. So when your program is ran, the operating system looks for this entry point into the executable to start your program. So main is the function that does that. It's pretty standardized on both the console app and the Windows graphical applications when we get to that in the next lesson. Alright, so very simple. We're going to just print, we're going to do a simple hello world console application, kind of traditional with beginner programming tutorials. And we have a special object called the console, which will allow us to write out to the console window. And so we'll type console.writeLine. That's going to be the method that we need. And what writeLine is going to do is write whatever literal string of text that we want written to the console window. Write it out there. You just enclose your literal string in double quotation marks, and that gets enclosed in an open and closed parentheses that follows the writeLine method name. Now, as you'll see in C#, all what we call statements or lines of code that you write end in a semicolon. And again, we'll get into some of this other stuff later, why it doesn't have a semicolon, but for now, just know anything that you're going to write is going to have a semicolon after it when you're writing within an open and closed curly brace. So that's it for the actual code. Let's go ahead and click File, Save All, or you can do Control plus Shift plus S to use the keyboard shortcuts, and then we'll click Build and Rebuild Solution. Now you notice down here there's some information that's showed in this output window, and what that's going to do is give you a success or failure regarding the build of your project. So we see it's 1 project succeeded, 0 failed, 0 skipped. So we're good on that. We know it ran. Now, because this is a console application, there's not a graphical interface to actually see the results. We're going to have to open up a command prompt window. We can do that by pressing Windows R. That'll bring up the run box. Type in CMD and hit enter. That'll open a command prompt window. And to save some typing, what I'm going to do is locate where our project is at. If we click your file system here, the folder to navigate your file system, go to Documents. Visual Studio 2013 creates a folder for all your projects called Visual Studio 2013. And in that you'll have a projects folder. And in there you'll see the solution file that we created. We'll open that, and inside that is our project folder, console app. You want to open that. We'll go to the bin folder and then debug. And this first file here, you want to look at the type when it says application, or it may just show up as consoleapp.exe. Don't get confused by this one here. This is a special XML configuration file that's used. You want to look for the one that has this kind of icon here. It's a generic icon for an app, and console app, and the type is application. So that's the file that we're going to actually be running at the command prompt. But what we need to get is this path up here. That's what we really want from this window here. And so to do that, we'll right-click just up to the right of debug in the white area here. What that'll do is highlight the entire path. We'll right-click and then copy. And then we'll click here in our command prompt window. And the command to change directories or folders is CD. So we'll type CD, then hit a space. And then we're going to right-click there and hit paste. That'll paste in that path that we copied from the previous window. Now if we hit enter, that will change us to the proper folder where our application is located. If we do a search on consoleapp.exe by typing directory, dir space consoleapp.exe, you'll see there's our console app. So to actually run it, we'll just type consoleapp.exe and hit enter. As you see, it wrote the words hello world to the console window and exited the program and brought us back to the command prompt ready for the next command to run. So that's pretty much how a console app works. You're not going to have a graphical interface, but it's great for doing any kind of work that does not involve user interaction, such as processing data files or scanning through text files for information, or through some kind of CSV file if you're trying to import a file into, let's say, a database. Command line tool like this would work great for that. Okay, so we'll close that prompt window. Close that, and that is the end of this lesson for lesson 2. Please join me in lesson 3 where we'll continue to write more code. Specifically, we're going to write a Hello World version as a GUI application, or a graphical user interface application, using Windows Form. So I hope to see you there. Thank you for joining us.